are ahead of us. Don't know where that is. Won't presume where the community opinion is going. That said, I can speak for myself. I can speak for anybody. As an elected official who runs on a platform, really important for me to basically remember and remind myself of the things that I ran on as a councilman. And so that's I have to own that. I'm accountable and responsible for what I said because people listen to that and make decisions based on that. So, and I think any council member is going to appreciate that fact. We also are required to have an open mind. So we learn things and we may reconfigure how we see things as we go. So I think those are sort of the two elements. Can't speak for anybody, but those are you have a starting point and you are a learner. I personally take what I said during the election campaign very, very seriously. I put a lot of thought into that. I said it with conviction and after serious thought, and I will be pushed off my point slowly. So that's sort of a personal statement for me. But I think, on your point, one of the issues here is that because the municipal process of community engagement process has yet to happen, we've been busy on other stuff, really important stuff. And the referral process has been working its way in the background, now coming to sort of reconnect with council decision making. We will, as of March 2nd, be engaged. These things will start to unfold in a way. But the important thing that will happen is suddenly there'll be sort of a municipal ownership to, or municipal attention to this question. We've been focusing on other things. Now we'll have some of our focus on this. And so I think that's important because the municipality has the capacity and the responsibility of running processes for any type of rezone. We'll do that. We have control on the quality, the outcome, control on the credibility of information, the quality of information. All of those things are things that we can essentially take a responsibility for. And so I would suspect, I can't speak for the process that's going on right now. It's driven by the developer, and that they're doing an informing job. This will be sort of anticipating decisions by council, which I shouldn't do, but there could be basically a process which is a public, transparent, open process of informing and engagement. And so I think it's that process that has to happen before we make any judgments about where community support is or is not, where there is, what are the options. I spoke to that earlier. My own personal view is right now that because we've got this background sort of out of sight, I'll call it sort of just non-public informing going on, there is what I'm hearing is sort of a polarization of opinions. It's either this or that. It's either the proposal or 58 lots of opinion. Personally, I don't believe that at all. I mean, I think this community is a very creative community that is going to put a lot of thinking into this, and we'll end up with something somewhere between those two end members. And I think it does a disservice to the community to polarize the debate. I mean, we went through this on the turf field. I mean, we had two choices. It was a yes or no on the turf field. And I don't think that really was benefited the community. I think it would have been way better if we had three options on the table. And then you basically can pick and choose. And that fosters creativity. The quality of decision making depends on the creative enterprise that goes into it. And that is yet ahead of us in the Cape Project terms. Other comments from council? Hope I didn't speak out of turn or inappropriately, but take those as personal comments.
Read the form I posted at Grand Parallel.
I read it here.
This morning. And essentially, I concur that, if there wasn't public support building for CRC, they wouldn't have a hope in hell of having this thing go through. I would hope that they are close enough to the mark that it's going to see the light, that something will see the light of day. Certainly a public process which elucidates the comfort level, and that's both in the OCP process and in the public process regarding this particular development, will shed light on where people's limits are. And as a counselor, that's what I said when I was running, was I wanted to see a really good public process that assisted me in being able to make a final determination.
So that's to cut the public process.
Indeed.
Stephanie and Peter, and Paul and Ian. Now, I'll jump to you if someone else hasn't spoken yet. Stephanie?
The risk of sounding like a broken record, where does affordable housing come in and when? Delivery of affordable housing.
Yeah. So in terms of OCP review, I mean, one of the interesting things that, I said to Dave Whitty was, okay, Dave, we're going to start this OCP review. Council's going to have some enthusiasms for our priorities, things we want help with. Can we tell you now? And he went, no. He went, we're developing a process. We'll get a steering committee together. We will do a process where we sort of do a scan and analysis of sort of, we'll hire a facilitator, we'll hire a planner, we'll do a scan, we'll do our homework on sort of the issues, in the OCP that need update, but also sort of an environmental scan of, what are the climate change issues, and the affordability issues, and the other issues that and we'll come back to council for consultation. But that group will sort of do that, and we'll come back to council, and then there'll be sort of a public discussion about, what are those key, priority areas that we want to sort of achieve. I think I can speak for all the council. Raise your hand if I'm not speaking for you. That affordable housing is in the crisis zone on this island. I think we get that, and we have to deal with that in the OCP update. I just think that's based on everything that's been said. I haven't heard anybody argue that point, and that would be embedded in the OCP. The question of what else before then is a good question. I don't think there's any sort of Jason.
Well, the other thing that's going on is the affordable housing working group. So its first primary task was to develop the affordable housing policy, which was adopted in June. And then the second piece that they were asked to do was the creation of an affordable housing corporation or society. And that work is continuing, and we're just finalizing some issues around that. And actually return to the council table, I think, at some point in the spring to look at creating a body that would basically take any units that come out of the policy. So that is also working underway, and coming back to the council.
Any other comments, Scott?
What do you mean when you say affordable housing? I understand there would be about 6 or 7 different pieces to it. But
There is, it can be non-market rental, non-market for sale, subsidized, there's many levels. Roger and I are on the BCHA, and our focus this year is going to be on social housing. And the affordable housing working group, they are concentrating on market-driven, non-market housing, housing that you can purchase, where there needs to be another aspect of affordable housing when it comes to rental and subsidized.
So, yes, to be more clear on my question, which pieces of, and I have read the materials that the affordable housing working group before, and
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I've got some background, not as rich as yours, but when you're referring to the 2009 plan, or 2010, what do you specifically want council to prioritize and work on in your question?
A piece of land acquisition to put affordable housing in.
So non-market.
The surplus lands, or just something to then keep in the forefront, so that it's a priority.
So this would be in addition to the Abbey Field site and the development of that site with multiple units.